Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening. Nepal plunges into political uncertainty. Prime Minister KP Oli resigns after violent protests over corruption and social media ban, which leaves 19 people dead. Nepal's finance minister gets attacked on the streets as demonstrations continue. All flights to the Kathmandu airport cancelled. India appeals for calm. Gold prices hit a record high, and in India and across the world, weak jobs report in the US raises expectations of a rate cut by the Fed next week. China adds to its gold reserve, further bolstering gold prices. The government allows companies to continue with old MRP labeling and packaging till the 31st of December, even as the GST rate cuts kick in from the 22nd of September. The government asks companies to mandatorily publish ads in newspapers with the revised selling price. Heavy Industries Ministry asks all automobile dealers to prominently display the new prices. Infosys is the top gainer on the Nifty 50 index after the company says it will consider a share buyback proposal on Thursday. This will be Infosys' first buyback in 3 years and fifth since its listing in 1993. The move ignites expectations of a buyback from other IT companies. Securities Appellate Tribunal sends a notice to SEBI after Jane Street challenges the charge of market manipulation. The US quant trading firm claims SEBI's own internal report gave it a clean sheet. Jane Street has paid 4,800 crore rupee penalty imposed by SEBI alleging market manipulation in some bank Nifty trades. President Trump's trade advisor Peter Navarro equates the BRICS to vampires and says the grouping of developing nations cannot stay together. Silence in both Washington and New Delhi as 3 days pass after the Prime Minister fully reciprocated positive statements from President Trump on the special relationship with India. The Sona First family feud gets murkier. Late Sanjay Kapoor and actor Karishma Kapoor's children moved the Delhi High Court, accusing Sanjay's wife Priya Kapoor of forging his will to try and gain total control of his assets worth 30,000 crores. Karishma and Sanjay Kapoor were married for 13 years and have a daughter and a son together. The children seek a 20% share each in their father's assets. Parliamentarians vote to elect India's next Vice President. NDA's candidate C.P. Radhakrishnan has the edge ahead of opposition's B. Sudarshan Reddy, Naveen Patnaik's Biju Janata Dal, K. Chandrasekhar Rao's BRS and Sukhbir Badal's Shiromani Akali Dal abstained from voting. Jagan Reddy's YSRCP decides to support the NDA. Israel bombs Qatar's capital, Doha. Israeli military claims to have targeted Hamas leadership. Qatar called it a criminal act and a flagrant violation of all international laws. Coursera cuts its prices by 60% in India in a bid to make the country its largest learner base from the current number 2. Plans to expand its local language offering by adding Oriya this year to the existing 26 languages. CEO Greg Hart says the company is deepening its focus on AI-driven education in India. Media mogul Rupert Murdoch finalizes a family settlement in succession. The eldest son, Lachlan Murdoch, cements control over the media empire that includes Fox News and Wall Street Journal. 3 other Murdoch siblings will sell their personal holdings within 6 months. Let's start with the day's market action. The market's ending at a 2-week high, led by IT stocks today. The Nifty ending above 24,800. The Sensex up over 300 points, but the IT index up almost 3% there. Excitement building around the Infosys buyback and, of course, what that could potentially mean as far as other IT stocks are concerned. But in the currency market, the rupee gaining some strength against the dollar. The rupee is below the 88 mark in intraday trade, but it finally closed above that level, closing the day at 88.10. That's the rupee dollar for you, and, of course, the bond market action as well. There is no stopping yellow metal, though. Gold prices hitting another record high of $3,600 as the U.S. Labor Department buoyed expectations of a Fed rate cut. Gold, silver and platinum have all gained between 40 to 55% so far this year. Manisha standing by with more on the gold rally. The gold rush continues, Manisha.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, we've seen gold prices scale up new record highs for a third day in a row here. And every day has been a $20 to $50 of a move that we've seen happen in case of gold. With the kind of run-up that we have seen, gold is making all-time highs, not just in US dollar or Indian rupee, but various other world currencies as well. So when you look at the last 12 months, well, we've seen 45% a piece of gain, both in case of gold and silver. For the year 2025, gold is up 39%, while silver is up 43% as well. Well, the support continues to come in from the fact that the markets have totally priced in a 25 basis point of a rate cut from the US Fed meeting in the month of September itself. Well, there is even 10-15% of a probability of a 50 basis points, something that the markets definitely are discussing. And then you have seen all US data come in on the weaker side, whether it has been about jobs numbers, home, credit cards, even the debt situation that the Western world seems to be dealing with, the better smart money seems to be moving in case of precious metals there. So there's quite a bit of a buoyancy that we've seen happen in case of these PGM metals. The second point really is that the weak economic data is not just about US, it's also about China and much of European Union. The street also is now looking at weakness in US dollar index and expected weakness going forward as well. And if you look at the gold buying right now, the investment demand is quite strong in sense of physical. Gold actually, even as it's trading at record highs, it's trading at a premium in the physical markets in US and many parts of Asia as well. So every time you see a bit of a correction coming for gold, all the people who have been sitting on the sidelines thinking they lost the buzz immediately get in. Is the reason you aren't looking at a very sharp correction in case of gold, because a little correction and you start buyers come back into the market. And that's exactly the kind of scenario that we are looking at.
Manisha, many thanks. The gold rush continues. The big global story: two mining giants, Anglo American and Teck Resources, have agreed to merge to create a copper producer valued at $53 billion. The combined entity will be among the top 5 copper producers in the world. Anglo American shareholders will own over 62% of the business. Teck Resources will hold more than 37% stake. The deal comes as miners look to shore up access to copper, which is essential to the renewable energy transition as a core component in the wiring used in the booming data center sector. Now, the Fed cutting rates while the economy is okay is a recipe for a bubble. That's the word coming in from investor Ruchir Sharma. Speaking to CNBC, Sharma added that the Fed has never cut interest rates when the financial condition has been this easy. The Fed is expected to announce its rate decision next week. The Trump administration has been pushing hard for a cut.
In the past, when the Fed has cut interest rates, when the economy has been doing okay, it has usually been a recipe for a bubble. That's what happened in 99, 2000. And some will argue that that's what, possibly even happened in 2021. But I think the main issue here is the fact that financial conditions are super easy. The Fed has never cut interest rates when financial conditions have been this easy.
Well, that's Ruchir Sharma on whether the Fed should or should not cut rates. He believes it shouldn't. Let's see what happens. The union government has allowed companies to continue with old MRP labelling and packaging till the 31st of December, even as the GST rate cuts kick in from the 22nd of September. But companies have to mandatorily publish advertisements in newspapers with a new selling price. Also, the Heavy Industries Ministry has asked all automobile dealers to display the new prices at dealerships across the country. So while there is some leeway there as far as old packaging continuing till 31st of December, but it is very, very clear that the GST cuts have to be passed on to the consumers from the 22nd of September. Now, the Securities Appellate Tribunal heard U.S. trading firm Jane Street's plea today, challenging SEBI's ban order. Jane Street argued that SEBI ignored its own internal surveillance department report and an NSE report. It claims that both reports gave Jane Street a clean sheet. However, SEBI termed the plea a fishing expedition, stating that it's already shared 10 GB of data but cannot disclose more as the probe is still underway. The matter will be heard next on the 18th of November. Vodafone Idea has challenged the government's computation of AGR before the Supreme Court once again. The company has filed a fresh petition before the Apex Court. Previous petitions from the company, including a curative petition, have been dismissed by the top court. So it remains to be seen if the Supreme Court will admit Vodafone Idea's fresh petition on AGR. This matter now back in the Supreme Court. The top global story tonight: Nepal staring at political uncertainty after anti-corruption protests led by Gen Z stormed the corridors of power. Prime Minister KP Oli has resigned. Nepal's finance minister was attacked on the street as demonstrations continue. Archana joins us now to decode the massive upheaval in Nepal. It has been a trying day. Oli is out, the army taking over. Archana, the situation very, very dynamic in Nepal.
Yes, Shireen, some disturbing headlines emerging from Nepal, which is witnessing a regime change. The country's top leadership, including the Prime Minister and Home Minister, have resigned. Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli resigned after 2 days of violent anti-corruption agitation led by Gen Z protesters that killed 21 people. As we speak, the situation is quite tense in the capital, Kathmandu. Protesters earlier in the day defied a curfew and stormed the residence of the Prime Minister and vandalized it, set it on fire. They also set on fire the office of the country's largest party, Nepali Congress, and residences of several prominent politicians, including the president of the country. The Nepali army and chiefs of other security agencies issued a rare joint appeal calling for dialogue as the only path to restore order. Another set of disturbing details of assault on former Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba and his wife Arzu Rana Deoba, whose current foreign minister, have also emerged. The protesters also breached the parliament and set it on fire. Now, all flights at Tribhuvan International Airport have been cancelled. Meanwhile, the Indian government has advised its citizens to avoid travelling to the Himalayan nation until the situation stabilizes there. New Delhi has also issued helpline numbers for those who are stranded in Nepal. Now, other politicians, other ministers of the Nepali cabinet did not escape the protesters' wrath. On your screen, you can see what has been purported to be a video of Nepal's finance minister being chased on a road and thrashed by demonstrators. We cannot independently verify the authenticity of the video. Another big question, why is Nepal on the boil? There are two reasons. One is corruption, a very important reason, and the immediate trigger was the social media ban. Now, at the heart of this is the movement called Nepo Kid campaign. It's a trend that targeted the children of the wealthy and influential politicians. The campaign put the spotlight on their lives, their luxurious lives, accusing the politicians of corruption because the kids were living a very lavish lifestyle. They had foreign education, luxury cars, exotic holidays, allegedly funded by corruption money. Now, many users posted TikTok videos of politicians' children living a very, very luxurious life and compared that with of an ordinary Nepali citizen. Now, the protesters blamed KP Oli for corruption, worsening economic conditions and misuse of power. And like I said, the immediate trigger was the social media ban. Now, that ban on prominent apps like Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram and Snapchat affected many people who rely on these apps for their small businesses and, of course, to criticize the government and connect with the loved ones. The ban was lifted late last night. The government said that the reason was that these platforms did not comply with the new registration rules. Back to you.
Archana, many thanks for joining us. Big developments there in Nepal. The government is out. The army has virtually taken over. White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro is hit out at the BRICS alliance, of which India is also a part, and this he's done yet again. This time he's compared the BRICS to blood-sucking vampires, in his words. In an interview with cable news channel Real America Voice, Navarro said, and I quote, "The bottom line is that none of these countries can survive if they don't sell to the US, and when they sell to the US, their exports, they're like vampires sucking our blood dry with their unfair trade practices. Let's see what happens, but I don't see how the BRICS stay together since historically they all hate each other and kill each other." End of quote. This isn't the first time that Navarro has trained his guns on the BRICS. He has on previous occasions leveled charges of unfair trade practices and internal divisions, among others. Meanwhile, there is silence in both Washington and New Delhi as 3 days have passed after Prime Minister Modi fully reciprocated the positive statements from President Trump on the special relationship with India. We learned from sources that ongoing discussions with the US officials have exhibited contentions over sectors including dairy, agriculture, fisheries and MSMEs. The government has reiterated it is open to a fair, equitable and balanced trade deal with reciprocity. Union Cabinet Ministers Nirmala Sitharaman, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal have said that there is optimism that the tariff standoff won't be a long-haul situation. Former Indian ambassador to the US, Nirupama Rao, has said the recent statements made by the Prime Minister and President Trump are positive but don't convey a reset in ties yet.
There is a package which consists of very many different ways in which we want to help them. So we'll wait for the cabinet to clear it, but there is something coming to help them so that this tirade of the tariff is something which they can face, and also suddenly having to look for newer markets is also a challenge, but we'll have to help them out on that.
So is there a sense in the government that this could be a slightly longer haul?
We hope not, but we really can't leave our exporters high and dry saying it's going to change sooner. We will work with them.
Nirmalaji, will we also continue to buy Russian oil?
Yes, that's been made very plain and simple. Whether it is Russian oil or anything else, it's our decision to buy from the place which suits our needs.
You know, some of the officials of the Trump administration, calling it Modi's war or, a laundromat of Kremlin. I mean, how do you react to this? I mean, are conciliatory noises coming from the other side now?
I think there could be either some misunderstandings or some personal opinions that may be reflected in that. I do not think that deters the US and India from continuing to maintain a strategic alliance and partnership. Our friendship is far stronger than a few comments that may be made by a few people.
You look at the entire world today, there is huge turmoil, there is turbulence, policy decisions are changing overnight, and the process which used to be followed in a multilateral, in a discussion, those kind of processes are today not very visible. So under such circumstances, the stability that India offers, that's huge. That's what is attracting a lot of investors to our shores.
The tone today is better, but it's an opening gambit, not a reset. So if you ask me, are these statements a sign things will improve? I would say they're a de-escalation signal, certainly, and they buy both sides some breathing room. Now, there's the tariff overhang also. The US duties, as we all know, as announced, are at 50% on a wide basket, and no new talks have been announced. So both sides, I believe, needed a political valve while the officials reassess the next steps.
And staying with India and the US, a proposed legislation in the US is causing a stir as far as IT companies are concerned. Bernie Moreno, a Republican member of the US Senate from Ohio, has floated a legislation that seeks to impose a 25% tax on outsourcing payments. But this proposed bill does not enjoy bipartisan support, and even other Republican colleagues of Senator Moreno have not openly backed it, so that's important to note. But first up, here's what the legislation proposes to do. The senator wants a 25% tax on what he calls outsourcing payments. This is defined as money paid by a US company or a taxpayer to a foreign person whose work benefits consumers in America. This bill also prohibits companies from deducting any outsourcing payments. Now, this proposed legislation will need the approval from the House, the Senate, and the President, since it involves tax changes. So this is a long way away from being a done deal. Another point to note is that the proposed legislation is akin to a private member's bill. Usually, lawmakers cutting across party lines propose a legislation so that it carries more weight on the floor of the House and in the Senate. But in this case, Senator Moreno is not being backed by any Democrat or even his own Republican Party members. Who is Senator Moreno? Well, he is an immigrant himself, born in Colombia, was a car dealership owner before he became a firebrand Republican. Moreno is seen as an outsider who's keen on shaking up the Republican establishment. He won the endorsement of President Trump for the Ohio Senate race, which proved pivotal in Trump's victory. But like many Republicans, Moreno had opposed Trump in 2016, calling him, and I quote, a lunatic and a maniac. But he reversed his position since and is now an ardent supporter of the president. Here's Ganesh Natarajan, the former CEO of Zensar Technology. He believes American companies will be firmly opposed to this proposed legislation to tax outsourcing. And this is something that we've seen previously as well. So he's not too perturbed. Take a look.
There have been many attempts in the past to do these outsourcing bills, etc. And what I think Senator Moreno has tried to do is something very similar. But in that sense, I think the first point of resistance will come from American corporates themselves. I mean, every significant corporation in the Fortune 500, and indeed most of the IT CEOs who were at dinner with President Trump the other day, I think they all have huge investments in India, in GCCs, what is Global Competency Centers. There are over 1,600 of them in India. Plus, of course, the fact that a lot of their work is done by Indian companies. So I don't think this is going to happen in a hurry. So I'm pretty sanguine about that.
And that's perhaps why IT stocks today didn't really react to the news coming in overnight. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says more than 60% of the chapters of the India-EU FTA are now finalised. Speaking on the sidelines of the Indian Steel Association event, Goyal said that he's hopeful that an FTA will be concluded substantially by the time the European Union Trade and Agricultural Commissioners come to India, which is later this week.
Almost 60-65% of the chapters also are now completed and finalized. By the time my counterpart, Mr. Maros Sherkovich, the EU Trade Commissioner, and Mr. Christoph, the EU Agriculture Commissioner, come to India, I think we'll be quite set to try and conclude the agreement substantially.
Progress there on the India-EU FTA. Up next on India Business Hour, media mogul Rupert Murdoch has finalised a family settlement in succession. That and more when we return. Catch all of CNBC TV 18's news and updates on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X and Jio Hotstar. Prime Minister Modi conducted an aerial survey of the flood-affected areas in Himachal and Punjab. He's announced a 1,500 crore rupee relief package for Himachal, where 370 people have died in the last couple of months. The Himachal government has estimated losses of more than 4,000 crore rupees. The Prime Minister has also announced 1,600 crores in assistance for Punjab, where more than 50 people have died just in the last month. Protests erupted in Doda district in Jammu and Kashmir after the police detained Aam Aadmi Party MLA under the Public Safety Act. Security arrangements and internet slowdown across district were reported. A crowd was seen gathering at the Kahara and Malkapura areas of the district, where the legislator has considerable influence. The protest was later dispersed by the police. The Sona First family feud gets murkier. Late Sanjay Kapoor and actor Karisma Kapoor's children have now moved to Delhi High Court, accusing Sanjay Kapoor's wife, Priya Kapoor, of forging his will to try and gain total control of his assets worth 30,000 crores. Ashmit joins us now to take us through the details of the plea. Ashmit, first it was the sister and the mother, though they've gone public with the fact that they believe that there's been forgery as well. But now Karisma Kapoor's children moving the court.
Indeed, preferring the legal route and claiming their status as a Class 1 heir. Bear in mind that Sanjay Kapoor, for a period of 13 years, was married to Bollywood actress Karisma Kapoor. The two of them had two children, a daughter, 20-year-old, a son, 15-year-old, and importantly, the children, that's the daughter and the son, they've preferred to move the Delhi High Court. Now, there are four aspects to point out as far as their petition is concerned. Number one, both of them are flagging their status as Class 1 heirs of Sanjay Kapoor, and by virtue of being Class 1 heirs, they're seeking, each of them are seeking 1/5 of the total available assets of Sanjay Kapoor. That's one. The second, they're using this petition to dismiss, to reject the will that is being cited by Priya Kapoor, the widow of Sanjay Kapoor. They're pointing out that this will is not authentic. In fact, they point out that on a number of occasions they've made requests for disclosure of that will. That will has not been supplied by Priya Kapoor, that it only adds to the suspicions on the authenticity of that will, and therefore they're rejecting that will, especially on account of how that proposed will seeks to disallow the two children from their entitlements as Class 1 heirs. That's the second key takeaway. The third, they're seeking directions from the Delhi High Court to protect the known available assets of Sanjay Kapoor. They're saying that very specific direction needs to be issued to restrain Priya Kapoor as well as Rani Kapoor, the mother, Sanjay Kapoor's mother, to ensure that none of his assets are sold or transferred in any shape or form. And fourth and finally, they are seeking disclosure of full assets, known assets, public assets of Sanjay Kapoor, so that they are known to the children in question. This petition being preferred before the Delhi High Court. There is some urgency in the matter. The lawyers in the case, we understand, will be seeking an early hearing from the Delhi High Court.
Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. Now, tensions in West Asia continue to worsen. Israel has now bombed Qatar's capital, Doha. The military has confirmed that it has carried out an assassination attempt on top Hamas leaders. Qatar has condemned the Israeli attack, calling it cowardly and a flagrant violation of international law. From one war-torn region to another, Russian forces have killed at least 6 people in Ukraine after launching nearly 450 drones over multiple settlements. Ukraine's forces retaliated with a massive drone attack on Russian-occupied Donetsk, killing 2 civilians. EU officials are holding talks with their American counterparts in Washington to impose more sanctions on Russia. The French Prime Minister has been outed in a new no-vote no confidence vote. This has come only 9 months after the Prime Minister came into power. French President Macron will name a new Prime Minister in a matter of days. Prime Minister Bayrou's fall came after he warned that the country was facing life-threatening debt. This is the fourth Prime Minister to resign in 2 years. The long-drawn succession for media mogul Rupert Murdoch's businesses has finally seen a deal. The eldest son, Lachlan Murdoch, has cemented control over the media empire that includes Fox News and Wall Street Journal. 3 other Murdoch siblings will sell their personal holdings within 6 months.
It is the real-life story that supposedly inspired TV drama Succession. But the battle for control of Rupert Murdoch's family empire seems to have reached its final episode, and the victor is the tycoon's oldest son. An agreement announced Monday will see Lachlan Murdoch cement control of the media group. Rupert's children James and Elizabeth Murdoch and Prudence MacLeod will sell major stakes. One Reuters source says they will get about $1.1 billion each. Meanwhile, a new trust will be created to benefit Lachlan and his younger siblings Grace and Chloe Murdoch. The battle for control had played out last year in a Nevada courtroom. Rupert Murdoch wanted to change the terms of a family trust that holds big stakes in Fox News parent Fox Corp and Wall Street Journal owner News Corp. He was concerned that James, Elizabeth and Prudence could mount a coup to oust the politically conservative Lachlan, and wanted to amend the trust to block interference by the more liberal siblings. But the court rejected that plan, with a source saying the ruling opened the way for new settlement talks. Now Lachlan's anointment as successor ensures that the family empire retains its conservative tilt. That's sure to be welcomed by Republicans, who prize the prominent role played by Fox News in US politics.
Well, the real-life succession being sealed there. EdTech company Coursera has cut its prices by 60% in India in a bid to make the country its largest learner base from the current number 2. Also has to do with the fact that ChatGPT is now in the EdTech space. Now, Coursera also plans to expand its local language offering by adding Odia this year to the existing 26 languages. Global CEO Greg Hart tells CNBC TV 18 the company is deepening its focus on AI-driven education in India.
Happy to share that we recently announced much more regionally aligned pricing that makes much more sense for consumers in India. So learning is now 60% more affordable, and that starts at 1699 rupees per month, so the equivalent of roughly, $20 US. We also launched a new course preview model that gives full access to the first module of most courses, and that includes graded assignments, video content, AI-powered features like Coach, and so that makes an entire complete learning experience available for that first module for most courses on Coursera to learners around the world, including those in India.
And you can catch that conversation with Coursera's Global CEO Greg Hart on Global Dialogue at 10 p.m. right here on CNBC TV 18. And before we wrap, veteran BJP leader C.P. Radhakrishnan, who's also served as the governor of Maharashtra and Jharkhand, is India's next vice president. A member of the RSS, Radhakrishnan started his political career with the Jan Sangh. His victory against the opposition's B. Sudarshan Reddy was a foregone conclusion since the NDA had the numbers in parliament. The election was necessitated after Jagdeep Dhankar's surprise resignation, Naveen Patnaik's Biju Janata Dal, K. Chandrasekhar Rao's BRS, Sukhbir Badel's Shiromani Akali Dal have abstained from voting. Jagan Mohan Reddy's YSRCP decided to support the NDA candidate. So the NDA candidate, that's Radhakrishnan, is India's next vice president. And with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news will continue right here on CNBC TV 18. We've got that big exclusive with the finance minister coming up next.